Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Government comes forward to allay fears of the public, says there is no shortage of cash with the Reserve Bank. Prime Minister Modi says the decision was not taken in haste. As the common man suffers, politics over demonetization intensifies. Congress wants a probe. Kejriwal says BJP informed its friends in advance to help them clear their black money. Prime Minister Modi concludes his tour of Japan with a ride on the famed Shinkansen bullet train. Calls for greater participation and engagement of Japanese industries. Thousands of South Koreans take to the streets of Seoul demanding resignation of their president. Park Geun-hye is embroiled in a corruption scandal involving a friend. Well, our top focus remains the massive chaos triggered by the government's demonetization move. As banks struggle to dispense cash to the swelling crowds each day, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley chaired an emergency meeting with bank heads to discuss ways to manage the cash crunch. Post the meeting, Jaitley assured people that the government is constantly monitoring the situation and if need be, the RBI will pump in more currency of small denominations. However, he added that it will take 2 to 3 weeks to recalibrate the ATMs across the country for the new currency notes.
Amid chaos and panic across the country following the demonetization move, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley convened an emergency meeting with the heads of all top banks on Saturday. He expressed regret at the inconvenience caused to people, but appealed to them not to rush to banks for withdrawal or exchange of high-value notes, reminding them that the window for any such transaction was open till the 30th of December. On the massive cash crunch, Jaitley said the RBI is exploring if more smaller currencies need to be circulated to meet the requirement.
Obviously, managing crowds is a concern. And the second concern which the banks today have said, that some customers want a particular choice of currency. And that even though large quantums of currency are available, in a given branch, that particular choice may not be available. And therefore, I would appeal to people to take whichever currency is available rather than insist on a particular choice. The smaller currency which was there in the market remains in the market. Not a rupee has been withdrawn. If at all, they are now trying to see, because of the increased demand, whether the RBI can add a slightly more of the smaller currency. That's they are trying to ensure.
Jaitley, however, admitted that any change in ATM-related technology would take time.
ATM क्योंकि technology based है, तो उसके रिकैलिब्रेशन में जो टेक्नोलॉजी एक्सपर्ट्स हैं उनका मानना है कि 2 सप्ताह के करीब अप्रॉक्सीमेटली, थोड़ा कमती बढ़ती भी हो सकता है, एटीएम्स के रिकैलिब्रेशन में लगता है सर। और एक एटीएम जो 2 लाख एटीएम हैं, टेक्निकल लोगों को एक एटीएम पे जाना पड़ रहा है, तो इसलिए ये लॉन्ग ड्रॉन प्रोसेस है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also sought to quell fears regarding the move. Addressing the Indian diaspora in Japan, the Prime Minister said the decision to scrap high-value notes was not taken in haste. He said the decision was made in the larger interest of the nation.
भाइयों बहनों, ये बहुत बड़ा स्वच्छता का अभियान है। ये किसी को परेशान करने के लिए नहीं है। तकलीफ हुई है, तकलीफ तो होती, मुझे भी अंदाज, मैंने पहले दिन भी कहा था, जब 8 तारीख को मैंने राष्ट्र के नाम संबोधन किया, तब भी कहा था कि इतना बड़ा देश है, 50 दिन दिए हैं, जल्दबाजी करने की जरूरत नहीं है। 50 दिन दिए हैं, जाकर के अपने जो ईमानदारी के हक के पैसे हैं वो जमा कराएं, बदले में उनको खाते में पैसे आ जाएंगे।
Home Minister Rajnath Singh hailed the move as a major achievement in terms of the country's security.
पाकिस्तान की यह कोशिश रहती थी कि भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था को अस्थिर कर दिया जाए, इसको तोड़ दिया जाए, तो उसके मंसूबों पर भी पानी फिर गया है। और साथ ही साथ इन फेक करेंसी के माध्यम से आतंकवादियों को जो मदद की जाती थी वो भी अब पूरी तरह से बंद हो चुका है।
For the common man, however, patience seems to be running out. Banks and ATMs witnessed added chaos and longer queues on Saturday as cash-starved people jostled to exchange and withdraw money over the weekend, with cash dispensing machines running dry within hours of being stocked. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, 4 days after the announcement, the centre continues to face the wrath of opposition parties. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal called the process a major scam. Congress too has called for a judicial probe into the matter. Meanwhile, hinting at more action to unearth black money, the Prime Minister said there is no guarantee that no further steps would be taken after December 30th.
As the common man fights to get to his hard-earned money in banks and ATMs, politics over demonetization is heating up. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal alleges a huge scam behind the scrapping of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes by the centre, terming the decision a surgical strike on the common man's small savings instead of on black money. Kejriwal said that BJP informed its friends about the move much before the announcement came on November 8th.
जो इनके अपने दोस्त थे, जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग थे, उनका सारा पैसा ठिकाने लगा दिया गया और इस देश के लोगों को अब तंग किया जा रहा है। जितना काला धन है उसका केवल रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन होगा, इट विल चेंज हैंड्स। सिस्टम के अंदर एक भी पैसा नहीं आने वाला।
Congress party, on the other hand, demanded a court-monitored probe into the matter. The party also demanded that the BJP make public all its expenses in the upcoming polls in UP, Punjab and other states if it was serious about eliminating black money and corruption. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has demanded withdrawal of the decision, while BJP ally Shiv Sena said the centre should have targeted black money stashed in foreign accounts instead.
बैंकों में कतार है, आम आदमी लाचार है और मोदी जिम्मेदार है। इस देश में आपको मालूम है कि लगभग एटीएम मशीन है, वो 2,20,000 एटीएम मशीन है हिंदुस्तान में, और हिंदुस्तान की संख्या क्या है? 130 करोड़।
That BJP has, BJP has nothing to worry. And some other parties in Bengal, we are getting information that some leaders, they have brought huge amounts of gold. So the question, BJP, everybody is now aware. So what Amit Shah says, it doesn't matter. The common people are in doldrums, and in this way, you cannot bring back black money, you cannot target black money.
नक्की बात जी असते ती ते विसरून गेले. एक गोष्ट नक्की की आज जो मी काही तुमच्या समोर आलेलो आहे, तो या योजनेला काही विरोध करायला आलेलो नाहीये. योजनेला विरोध म्हणजे कोणत्या योजनेला? की काळा पैसा देशातून हटवला पाहिजे.
But the BJP was quick to dismiss any criticism, instead hitting out at the opposition.
इस तरह के काले धन कारोबारी, काले धन के जो कुबेर है, उनमें जो है वो हताशा, निराशा और बौखलाहट है, और इस हताशा और निराशा और बौखलाहट का असर कहीं ना कहीं कुछ लोगों पर भी देखा जा रहा है, कुछ राजनीतिक दलों पर भी देखा जा रहा है.
Meanwhile, there was more chaos at banks and ATMs where long winding queues were seen. In many places, ATMs ran out of cash in a few hours. Bankers say the situation is unlikely to change for at least a week. Taking into account the lack of infrastructure preparedness for the currency exchange program, the government on Friday extended the use of old 500 and 1,000 rupee notes for paying household utility bills and fuel till November 14th. With inputs from Annu Diwan, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, even as citizens grapple at banks and ATMs, fresh rumours about acute salt shortage spread on Friday. But the centre has dismissed these rumours, saying that there was adequate stock. In a series of tweets, the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion said adequate stocks are available across the country, including Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, NCR and Tamil Nadu. Salt producers and suppliers from Tamil Nadu, Telangana and West Bengal also confirmed that there is no scarcity of salt in these states. Rumours about shortage of salt triggered panic among people in Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Delhi and Maharashtra, with salt being sold in some places for as much as 400 rupees per kilogram.
जहां तक नमक का सवाल है, हमारे पास में नमक की कोई कमी नहीं है, और आज भी हमने देखा है जो डेली हमारे पास में प्राइसेस का मूल्य का आता है, वही 14 रुपये 15 रुपये जो पिछले साल था और पिछले हफ्ता था, वही चल रहा है. अब कोई आदमी पैनिक फैलाने की कोशिश करे तो सरकार को उसके खिलाफ में राज्य सरकार को एक्शन लेना चाहिए.
नमक पूरी मात्रा में मौजूद है, और अभी जैसे कि शाम से ये खबर आनी शुरू हुई कि नमक के रेट काफी बढ़ा दिए, लोगों ने कालाबाजारी शुरू कर दी है, तो जो लोग भी ये कर रहे हैं उनके खिलाफ सख्त कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday concluded his three-day visit to Japan. On the last day, he travelled on the Japan's famed Shinkansen bullet train. Earlier, during the annual India-Japan bilateral summit, 10 agreements were signed, including the landmark civil nuclear agreement.
On the last day of his Japan tour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe travelled in the country's famed high-speed Shinkansen bullet train. After an almost 2-hour ride, Modi arrived in Kobe, where he was accorded a formal welcome by Hyogo Governor Toshizo Ido. In Hyogo, the Prime Minister also visited the plant of Kawasaki Heavy Industries, which will build India's first bullet train. While addressing a lunch gathering of business leaders in Hyogo, Prime Minister Modi recalled his association with the prefecture and his visits to Kobe in 2007 and 2012. He also called for greater participation and engagement of Japanese industries, terming the move as transformational.
I am confident that the agreement will give further impetus to the friendly exchange and cooperation which have excited for many years between Hyogo and Gujarat. Greater interaction and cooperation between Kansai region and small and medium enterprise in India could prove transformational for our economic partnership.
During Shinzo Abe's visit to India last year, it was decided that Japan would provide $12 billion of soft loans to build India's first bullet train. Under the deal, a high-speed train line will be constructed between Mumbai-Ahmedabad stretch. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, the Sutlej-Yamuna link canal issue is unlikely to die down anytime soon. The Punjab government has called a special assembly session on the 16th of November to discuss the issue, and the ruling Akali Dal will also raise the issue in Parliament.
The Punjab government is exploring options to bring a bill for scrapping all water sharing pacts with other states, just days after the Supreme Court ruled an earlier similar act unconstitutional. The government is likely to bring in the bill during the special assembly session convened on November 16th to discuss the SYL issue.
Hindustan ਦੀ ਖਾਤਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਦੋ ਇਰੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਕੰਮ ਹਨ ਜੀ, ਸੋਰਸ ਹਨ, ਇੱਕ ਹੈ ਨਹਿਰ, ਇੱਕ ਹੈ ਟਿਊਬਵੈਲ। 80% ਟਿਊਬਵੈਲ ਹੈ, 20% ਨਹਿਰ ਹੈ। 80% ਟਿਊਬਵੈਲ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਸਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਨਾਜ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਤਾਂ ਬੰਜਰ ਹੋ ਜੂ। ਹੁਣ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ 20% ਵੀ ਪਾਣੀ ਨਾ ਰਹਿਣ ਦਿੱਤਾ।
सीएम साहब ने राष्ट्रपति जी को भी लिखा है कि ये पंजाब के साथ बहुत बड़ी बेइंसाफ़ी है और ये उनकी जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट की रिकमेंडेशन है उसको एक्सेप्ट ना करें।
The party will also take the fight to Parliament and has decided to bring an adjournment motion in the upcoming winter session, seeking a debate on whether the judiciary was bigger than the constitution or vice versa.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट हो, सरकार हो, कोई व्यक्ति हो, कोई भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन देश का है उससे बबनी है। तो जब हमें हमारा विधान हमें मालिकी का अधिकार देता है तो मालिक को निकाला नहीं जा सकता। मालिक को कहीं मालिक का मालिकी का जो हक है वो छीना नहीं जा सकता। कोई सरकार अदालत छीन नहीं सकती।
Meanwhile, the opposition Congress has decided to take the agitational route, accusing the Punjab government of not representing the people of the state.
Punjab government, the BJP Akali government, is not reflecting the anxiety and anger of the people of Punjab. So the government's failure in conveying the actual ground reality is the real problem here.
A 3-member legal team is also examining the Apex Court ruling in order to advise the Punjab government. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Here's a roundup of the other national news and nationwide. Delhi Police's crime branch will now investigate the case of missing JNU student Najib Ahmed in order to have a fresh look into the case. The move comes after Najib's mother met Home Minister Rajnath Singh and requested for a CBI probe into the matter. Najib Ahmed went missing on October 15th following an on-campus scuffle allegedly with members of ABVP the night before. Normal life in Kashmir remained crippled for the 127th day on Saturday amid the shutdown called by separatists. At least 80 civilians have been killed and over 6,000 wounded in over 3 months of clashes between protesters and security forces sparked by the killing of Hizbul terrorist Burhan Wani. The current shutdown program is scheduled to last till November 17th. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha's infection is under control and she can leave the hospital as per her wish. This was conveyed by the Apollo Hospital in Chennai, where she is undergoing treatment. Jayalalitha was admitted on September 22nd after she complained of fever and dehydration. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, tens of thousands of South Koreans have taken to the streets of Seoul to demand the resignation of scandal-hit President Park Geun-hye in one of the largest anti-government protests in decades. Now, large numbers of police officers were deployed to prevent demonstrators reaching the presidential palace. Here's a report. Men, women and children joined one of the largest anti-government protests seen in Seoul for decades on Saturday, demanding President Park Geun-hye's resignation over a snowballing corruption scandal. On the back of official appeals for calm, police deployed around 25,000 officers, many of them in full riot gear, while police buses and trucks blocked every access road, major or minor, around the presidential Blue House. As with the previous protests, the huge crowds were extremely mixed, with high school children rubbing shoulders with retirees and young couples marching with babies or young children.
박근혜 지금까지 뻔뻔하게 자기 자리에 고수하고 있으니까 저 같은 일반 사람들까지 나와서 한 마음으로 힘을 보태줘서 박근혜가 물러날 수 있도록 해야 된다 생각해서 나왔습니다.
The steady beat of drums and chanting of slogans made for a raucous but largely peaceful atmosphere, with banners everywhere mocking Park and calling her to step down immediately.
오늘 민주노총 역사상 최대로 많은 조합원들이 함께 모여서 불법 권력으로 드러난 박근혜 대통령 즉각 퇴진과 구속을 요구하고.
The scandal engulfing Park is focused on a close personal friend, Choi Soon-sil, who is currently under arrest on charges of fraud and abuse of power. Prosecutors are investigating allegations that Choi leveraged their personal relationship to coerce donations from large companies like Samsung to non-profit foundations which she set up and used for personal gain. She is also accused of interfering in government affairs despite holding no official position. In an effort to soothe public anger, Park has issued several apologies, reshuffled top officials and even agreed to relinquish some of her extensive executive powers. But the popular calls for her to step down have been relentless. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Well, a huge explosion at the largest NATO military base in Afghanistan, the Bagram Air Base, has killed at least 4 people. At least 14 others were also wounded in the blast. The bomb exploded inside the base, a first attack of its kind on a NATO base. According to officials, the attacker entered the base early morning on foot, hidden among a group of workers reporting for duty. The Taliban said one of their suicide bombers carried out the attack. The attack is being seen as a major security breach in one of the best protected places in Afghanistan. Attacks on Bagram have occurred in the past, but insurgents have never made it past the compound's outer walls.
در داخل بیت زیاد دفعه انفجار شد ساعت 5:25 دقیقه بود. دیگه تا فعلا معلوم نیست که چند نفر کشته و چند نفر زخمی است. دیگه راه بند شده تا پلیس هم نمیمونه کسی داخل بره. دیگه ما خبر نداریم. نمیقدر میفهمیم بس.
Well, here's a roundup of the other international news in Global Buzz. Iraqi special forces have pushed deeper into Mosul despite heavy resistance from Islamic State terrorists who are using civilians as cover. Backed by the US Air Force, the Iraqi security forces are now preparing to move on southern and northern districts of Mosul in the coming days. On the eastern front, the Iraqi forces have already made way inside the Qadisiyah al-Tanaya district. The operation to retake Mosul has entered its fourth week but has so far gained just a small foothold in the city. Venezuela's opposition and the government of President Nicolas Maduro engaged in a new round of talks on Friday. The talks are part of a Vatican-backed dialogue process meant to ease a political standoff amid the spiraling economic crisis. However, neither side appeared optimistic. The opposition insisted on a recall referendum against Maduro, and the socialist administration showed little indication of agreeing to the demand. The meeting is expected to continue over the weekend. Hundreds of protesters gathered on the streets of Haiti in support of presidential candidate Maurice Narcisse. Narcisse is facing accusations of inciting violence in the lead-up to the national elections later this month. According to news reports, the country's Provisional Electoral Council summoned Narcisse on Friday to elaborate on the charges made against her. Haiti will hold the first round of its delayed presidential election on the 20th of November. A group of Swedish officials will visit WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London on Monday. Ecuadorian prosecutor Wilson Toanga is expected to take Assange's statement in the presence of the visiting Swedish officials. They are also expected to take a DNA sample subject to Assange's consent. Assange is wanted for questioning over accusations of sexual assault in Stockholm in 2010. He took refuge at the embassy in 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden due to fears that he would then be handed over to the US authorities. And on to some sports news now. England extended their first innings lead by 163 runs as they finished day 4 at 114 runs without losing a wicket. Earlier, India were bowled out for 488 runs in their first innings following England's 537 on the fourth day of the first test match being played in Rajkot. Opener Murli Vijay scored 126 runs while Chiteshwar Pujara made 124. R. Ashwin also contributed important 70 runs. India trailed by 49 runs in the first innings. For England, spinner Adil Rashid claimed 4 wickets while Moeen Ali and Zafar Ansari took 2 wickets apiece.
Need some balls misbehaving and bouncing up.
Well, here's a roundup of the other sports news in Sports Beat. Vandana Kataria will lead the Indian women's hockey team in the Test series against Australia to be played at Melbourne from November 23rd to November 30th. Defender Sunita Lakra will be the vice-captain of the 18-member squad. Rajni Etimurpu and Savita will continue to don the responsibility in front of the Indian goal, while the backline will be under the watchful eyes of Deep Grace Eka, Salima Tete, Rashmita Mins, Navdeep Kaur and Sunita Lakra. Reigning world chess champion Magnus Carlsen and Russian Grandmaster Sergei Kryakin went ahead to head on Friday in the first game of a battle to determine the world's top player. Carlsen made the opening move as the first of 12 games got underway in New York. After 42 moves, the game ended in a draw with the opponents to meet again on Saturday. A trio of thundering headers gave England a thumping victory as Scotland put up a fight before being swept aside 3-0 in the World Cup qualifier at Wembley. Daniel Sturridge's bullet header in the first half and equally impressive efforts after the break from Adam Lallana and Gary Cahill ensured England emerged from international football's oldest fixture, having consolidated their lead at the top of Group F. Well, that's it on this edition of the news at 6. Good evening.